Welcome to Sales for Nerds. I'm your host and chief nerd, Ruben Swartz. If you started a business because you love serving clients but realized you didn't like the sales and marketing aspect of running that business so much, this is the podcast for you. Sales and marketing doesn't have to suck. It can actually be a lot of fun. And on this show, we're going to teach you how to connect instead of network, teach instead of market, help instead of sell, so you can keep serving people even while you're building your pipeline and growing your business. Now let's get to it. Today, I'm super excited to have with me Mark Firth. He is the CEO of B2BGrowthTeam.com, and he is an expert at using LinkedIn and YouTube and a whole bunch of other digital tricks and tactics that we're going to get into in a second to help consultants raise prices, get better clients, and generally have a more successful practice and enjoy life more. Mark, welcome to Sales for Nerds. What do you have in your water bottle?
I have green tea in my 2-liter water bottle. So there we go. Cold green tea, might I add.
One of us is hydrating really well, and one of us is drinking. I've been meaning to try this out. It's a Tasmanian Pinot Noir, and it's got a little bit of a different flavor. It's called Devil's Corner, and it's a distinctive color and a distinctive. It's got almost like a lot of cranberry in there. But anyway, I'm enjoying it. And Mark, I'm happy to have you here. We have been trying to schedule this for months, and it has just been one thing after another. So glad to finally have you here.
Same.
For folks who don't know who you are yet, give us the short version of your backstory. How did you end up being this person with all these interesting digital tricks? Because when you and I were growing up, no one envisioned doing these things for a living.
No, and I still don't know what I want to do for a living. I'm work in progress, but I spent my 20s in London. I spent my 30s in Bogota, Colombia. Went there for 1 year, ended up spending 10, wife, kids, business, and we just made it into Lakeland, Florida through the business. And that journey's, I was forced to start a business online because I was in Colombia and I couldn't do anything else. So as I always say, if it's not working for you, it's working on you, and life guides us, right? So that's how I've ended up here. And
you sound like you're about as good at strategic long-range planning as I am.
I mean, like I'm a fan of the Beatles, right? And John Lennon says, I don't know if it's a famous quote, in one of his songs, he says, life is what happens when you're busy making other plans. And I think there's a large degree of truth in that, because it's important to have plans, but then, and then something hits you on a Tuesday afternoon. Right. And all of us, so there we go. I like that quote. It's a good one.
And when you're there in the moment, you don't even know what you don't know yet. You don't know that maybe you should be in Colombia for a decade.
Yeah, it's important to have a vision, because the vision is one step in front of, helps you guide your next steps and a framework for thinking, right? But also you've got to be open to I found, for me, and sorry, I don't mean to be so prescriptive. For me, I've always found it's also nice to have a little bit of flexibility in there to adapt.
Absolutely. So how did you get into digital marketing?
I got into digital marketing because I was in Colombia and my Spanish wasn't great, so I couldn't do a business there. I had an English teaching business and it failed because things were starting to go online. I was like, what else can I do? And the best option was obviously digital. So I got into it in 2017. I was like, I used to do B2B. Let's see what's LinkedIn's got going on, and we went from there, and that's how it happened. It was kind of, I was forced into it. And it's interesting because I always say to clients, right, there's two types of clients. If you see us, we get two types. We get a 20-something, or we get a 40 to 60-year-olds. We don't tend to attract 30-somethings. Don't ask me why, but there's two different types of problems. The 20-somethings often have one thing they have to do. The 40 to 60, they have so many skills they don't know what to do. Both are problems, but the 20-somethings take action and they do it quickly. So often I think it's almost a good thing to be forced into something and have a limited skill or idea to get going. Do you know what I mean? Because then the rest is history. So
absolutely. And I know that I saw that. I struggle with that myself. And a lot of the folks that I work with have that problem. They're capable of doing a lot of things, and they feel terrible about not helping someone they could possibly help. And therefore they don't get to spend their time helping the people they can best help.
Yeah. Take action is the summary, right?
That's right. So how did your business evolve? Because when you started, you were not B2B Growth Team, right?
No, we've gone through various iterations, and I started because I had to start. And the thing that I knew back then was LinkedIn. LinkedIn is the thing I'd always done, and I'd always done B2B. So naturally I gravitated towards that. And we, in hindsight, it was a bad move. But again, Steve Jobs says, if we're doing the quotes, you have to look back to connect the dots. We were the linkedpreneurs, which was terrible. No one could pronounce it. No one could spell it. And most importantly, it pegged me to a platform and a tactic. So that was very good for 2 years and we got going. But then LinkedIn got really busy and loads of people started spamming. And then suddenly we were pigeonholed to a platform and a tactic, a way of doing business. And people started asking, well, what makes you different to all the other LinkedIn companies? And I could have resisted it and I could have said, well, this, and this. But I was like, I've got to take responsibility for this perception. It's like being typecast, in a movie. Certain actors get typecast into certain type of roles. And we were typecast against commodities. So we then evolved into more of an aspirational positioning statement, which would be high profit consulting. And that worked really well. We've done that for the last, 18 months, 2 years. But then recently, and that's a nice problem, people start saying, oh, I really like what you're doing, but I'm not a consultant. Will it work? So again, when we listen to the market and we've moved to B2B growth team, and I'm in the UK, there's an advert for that I always saw when I was growing up, and it was like a wood painting tin, a tin of wood paint or varnish. And the advert, the catchphrase was, does what it says on the tin. That was it, right? And I'm very direct, and we do what we say on the tin. So I was just like, B2B growth, and we're a team. Is the URL available? B2B growth team. And it seems to have really resonated with our customers and our clients. So we're in the process of rebranding. And it kind of represents what we do as well, because it's being in a team with our clients. So does what it says on the tin.
and that URL was available?
Yeah. I picked it up. I was like,
wow,
buy it. Yeah.
That's the most shocking part of this whole story, I think. Well, I know a little bit about starting companies with names that no one can spell or pronounce. So we have that in common as well. And I've certainly noticed the flood of LinkedIn spam. And I mean, it's just, I guess it must be working for some people. It's certainly working for the LinkedIn consultants who are selling the packages to all these people. But I can't tell you how many people are in my inbox every day talking about how they would love to, reflect on my great experience and grow their network and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah. It's as I always say, we do a lot of webinars, and I always say to people on that, and this kind of goes where you're saying this, I say to them, look, we're not here to tell you what we do is the best thing and you should drop everything else you're doing, because I think that's patronizing, because the way to grow a business is to find something that works and double down. So don't stop something that's working. But increasingly, because we do them regularly, we're starting to see more and more people having less success with it. I mean, is it true that it's always going to work? Yeah, for certain niches, certain businesses, certain types of personalities, certain levels of discipline. But it's not how I want to grow my business, and it's not really my strength, and it didn't lead to enough consistency. So yeah, it's always going to work for other people. But the most important question to ask is, what do you want from your business? Is this going to be a good 3-year, 5-year, 10-year plan? And when I asked those questions, when I asked that question in 2018, when it started to get busy, I was like, no, I want to exit this business. I can't be reliant on just outbound. There has to be something else on top of it. And that's why we started looking at things, because I just, it's getting harder and harder to stand out, right? Because you're doing the same thing as everybody else. And it's very hard in a couple of lines of text to represent who you are and what you do and your energy and your ideas and concepts. Am I making sense? That was a very long answer to say something very short.
Well, I think that's part of the challenge. One of the wonderful things about the internet and all this digital technology is that everybody has basically become a media company. Everyone has a voice. And the challenge is everyone has a voice. And for you to actually be heard, that becomes the big problem. It's not that you can't publish. You can publish in all sorts of ways that you couldn't 20 years ago. But can anybody hear you above everybody else publishing, I think, is the real question. So you kind of pivoted away from LinkedIn. Where did you go?
So we still use LinkedIn, but instead of, we learned a very valuable lesson from being pigeonholed on LinkedIn, because lots of people say, oh, Mark, which channel should I target for my offer? And I always say that's a great question, but I think the better question is, how can I get the time, focus, and energy of my audience sufficiently for them to understand what I do and see enough of it and in order to want to do business with me? And that kind of asking that question led to YouTube and LinkedIn, because I did a video about this the other day, because I just started, people said YouTube was great. So I love doing video. So I did what I normally do. I just ignored all the advice about SEO, great thumbnails. I just started posting stuff on there. And I started sending my email list there. And it started working. I had no idea why. So I kept on doing it. And then before I knew it, I was like 100 hours a month. And then I thought, okay, this is going well, so I better actually read a book on this. So I bought a book on it.
Sorry, you were publishing 100 hours a month, or people were watching 100 hours
watching
a month?
100 hours a month. And I had very few followers, and I wasn't even doing any of the SEO or the tagging. My description was like, literally, check out my website, right? And I was doing it on Canva, picture of me, and just got going, right? And then I read a book, and it made sense. I read the book and realized why it was working. It wasn't for the reason that he said in the book, because he was talking about how it's great to do things that catch people's eye, like how this great video was sending popcorn into space. I'm never going to send popcorn into space. That's not my market. I'm not pop culture. I'm not mass market. I'm never going to have a channel that's going to be for the masses. But then he started speaking about the algorithm. And it's a great book, by the way. It's by Darrell Eves. A really fantastic book. He started talking about how the suggested videos had really, really changed and the work they've done on that. And then all of a sudden it started to make sense, because I'm sending people to YouTube from my email list every single day rather than building a channel. And so they can't escape the suggested videos. They're all me. So YouTube is just great. So now I just push people off LinkedIn to my email list and YouTube, and YouTube does my retargeting. It's just like people go on YouTube and they see my videos. It's really, really simple, you know?
So I want to get into this, but first, you can't leave us hanging on the name of the book.
Yeah. Oh, I don't actually know. I just listened to it in the. Hold on, let me tell you.
No, seriously, I mean, you got this whole thing about this great book, and we can't tell people what the book is.
Let me tell you, it's on Audible. It is YouTube, the YouTube Formula by Darrell Eves, Derral. And for my English phonetics, that's Delta Echo Romeo Alpha Lima Eves, as in Christmas Eves.
Wonderful. All right, we'll have a link to that in the show notes, and maybe I should read that too.
Book.
So basically, what's going on that's different with YouTube versus Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, all the other very ephemeral content platforms, YouTube will help people discover your older content. Am I understanding that correctly?
So the YouTube, if anyone's been on YouTube recently, just think about, we've all had an experience, I think, or maybe if you've got it blocked, wise move. But you go on there, and before you know it, you've been on there an hour, and you're like, where did that hour of my life go? Because it's like that you do a video and then you see the next one as suggested, you're like, oh, that looks good, and that looks good, because they've dialed it in so much. And when you combine that with because like any platform, they want people to spend more time on there. It's the second most visited platform on the internet behind Google. So in other words, Google isn't really a website to me. It's a search engine page. It's the number one content-based website on the internet. LinkedIn's like 50, according to last year's statistics. So in other words, nobody on a Friday night or a Saturday morning or even on a Thursday afternoon goes, oh, I want to go to Mark Firth online or b2bgrowthteam.com. I'm not that important. And none of us are really, but they do go to YouTube. And if they've been seeing my videos, YouTube is, if they're any good, that's the qualifier, they're going to be good. YouTube will start pushing more of them, because if you're watching them, it's going to get you to watch more of them. And there you go. And I used to pay a lot of money to Facebook to do what I call retargeting, which was I'd pay Facebook and say, if someone's visited my website or viewed a video, then please send more of my stuff to them. And I used to have to pay them. That's free on YouTube now. So and it's evergreen. I'm not a fan of LinkedIn and Instagram because it's gone in 2 days.
Right.
I'm really not, but it's important. I'm just saying priorities.
Now, do you still pay Facebook for retargeting, or you stop that entirely?
So we still run Facebook ads, and we've always run ads for a long time. We don't do retargeting per se, as in do a separate campaign. We just run the same stuff and it finds them. And so it's not as dialed in as it used to be, but it will show people, it will show ads these days to people that have shown interest. It keeps just sending them. Facebook have got a bit more primitive, but it still works.
Now, when you say they've got a little bit more primitive, is this a result of Apple's privacy changes?
Yeah, exactly. So they've got access to less data and less information about who's clicking and who's not. So yeah, it's not as powerful to retarget, but YouTube's replaced that.
And so this is sort of an interesting philosophical debate, because on one hand, Facebook's kind of creepy and I don't trust them with my data. On the other hand, as an advertiser, as a small business owner, it was this amazing channel that let you
Yeah.
target people in a way that you really couldn't before cost effectively. I don't know how to weigh that as, overall, are we going in the right direction or not?
I don't know. I don't love any social media, but I do love social media as a tool to further my business, make an impact, and help people. So I guess it's utilitarian, greatest good. What's the greatest good? Does the means outweigh the outcome? And I mean, it's not going away. So the way I ask myself this sometimes, but really, I believe that what we're doing ultimately does help people in the longer term and solves a problem. So I see them as a tool, but you're not going to get me on a LinkedIn Live in a LinkedIn t-shirt. Never. Do you know what I mean? Which you see sometimes. Do you know what I mean? I'm just like,
I haven't
come
seen
on.
that. I must not be in those crowds.
I've seen it. I've seen it. I'm not going to be like asking Mark Zuckerberg for his autograph anytime soon, you know?
Sure. So YouTube is sort of the linchpin of your strategy. Would that be fair to say?
I don't know. I guess it has this year. All I can say is this: it's transformed my business. The conversion of sales call is up, the profitability is up, the number of sales calls is up, the number of inbound leads is up, the reliance on paid advertising is down, LinkedIn is more effective. And this is the painful thing, because I can't attribute it to Google, because you can't make that direct relationship. All I can see is there's a lot more hours watched on YouTube, which is the only thing that's changed, versus those uplift in those statistics. I can't directly attribute it. I just feel it is. And I guess it has. I haven't really thought about it. But yeah, the first thing I will do every day now is do a LinkedIn Live and then upload it to YouTube. Absolutely. That's my content strategy.
Okay. So for other folks who are listening to this saying, gosh, I'm getting tired of LinkedIn or Facebook or my newsletter or whatever it is, or I just need something different. I think one of the things that's frustrating about LinkedIn is even if you get great engagement and it's productive, like you say, it's a constant treadmill, and you only get that engagement by actually devoting a lot of time to it. Versus it seems like YouTube, you make an investment in the video, but then that will pay off as people get more and more acquainted with your content due to the recommendation algorithm?
I think the thing that I'd like to just add to that, is it okay?
Please.
Is that this is all held together by something I know we have in common. It's held together by having an email list and an SMS list. I don't trust any platform enough to know that I could be thrown off at any point. You just don't know these days. And I like to have as much ownership of the data as possible. So we're always going to email list as well, because the email list is what we use to send people to YouTube. So I think it's really, really important to have an email list, because I don't control YouTube longer term. I don't control LinkedIn long term. And I don't think I'll ever have access to those corridors of power.
Right.
But I know that I can export my email list as a CSV file, and I can put that on a hard disk and put it under my pillow. Right. Figuratively speaking, of course. And I have access to that data, and I can always get in contact with people. Right. It's not the same with the social media platform. So I think that's an important thing to mention.
Yeah, it's a very good point. And the YouTube and the LinkedIn and the other stuff, eventually you can send your existing subscribers to that content, but you can also get new subscribers from that content, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yes, exactly.
So it kind of works in a virtuous cycle. So what should people be doing tactically? Because I know everyone's talking about video, and LinkedIn is pushing video. A lot of these platforms are pushing live stuff. YouTube is pushing live interaction. And it can seem a little overwhelming for people, especially if they're not really into this marketing game to begin with. What would you tell folks to do? Is this something that they can start doing on their own? It sounds like you kind of just went and did stuff without even like knowing what you were doing, but I don't know if that's the right approach.
I don't like ever telling anybody to do what to do, and I know that was just a turn of phrase, so I'm not pushing back. But all I can speak from is my personal experience, and that my experience of my clients as somebody that's been doing this and helping people since 2017. And I've always found we've always got the best results, and clients always got the best results when there's something simple behind it, a simple idea. And lots of online marketers do make it complicated. They've got the blueprint, they've got the framework, they've got the 7-step process, the 3-step process, posh names to make something seem complex, which is ultimately very simple, in my opinion, to sell something. Building a business, if you just ask, because it comes down to two things. It comes down to, number one, having an audience. What's an audience? Time, focus, and energy. That's it. And turning that time, focus, and energy into clients. So number one, audience. Number two, conversion. So I always ask myself, what's the best place to get the time, energy, and focus of my clients? As I said, potential clients. To me, that's the email list. So all you should do every single day is find the best way to get people on your email list. And that can be the true north. And it's always going to come back to get better at communicating your perceived value with your language. Your language is the best tool you have to communicate what you do. It comes down to the fundamental storytelling, simplicity of language, concepts, ideas. There really is nothing else to it. There's all this stuff out there, but it ultimately comes down to that. Time, energy, focus, conversion. You can't get the time, energy, and focus without actually knowing what you're talking about, and more than that, being able to communicate it in a way without getting on a soapbox, as we say in the UK, and telling people what to do. That doesn't work, which is why I said that at the beginning. You know, I think it's an important distinction. So
you're descriptive, not prescriptive.
I tend to be, because I think people have to find their own way. What I've found best to always do is help people find their own way to do things. My way to do things I found by ignoring a lot of coaches. You know, I got this from here, and put it all together in my own way of doing things. It's only when I started doing that and matching my strengths to what I actually enjoyed with what the market needed, that's when it came. So yeah, I try and be. But yeah, get that time, energy, and focus. Find the best way to do that. And for me, it's not a TikTok video. That help?
So building, I get that building the email list is a good thing.
Yeah,
quote unquote, right? It's like motherhood and apple pie, as we would say in the States. But
it's a new one for me.
I don't know. Maybe it's old fashioned now. Maybe I'm revealing my age. But building your email list is definitely motherhood and apple pie. Just make sure you're going for like true audience engagement, not vanity numbers, etc. But I want to focus on the YouTube, partly because I would selfishly love to learn to use YouTube more effectively. And I think there's a lot of people out there who want to understand how to fit that into the rest of it. Most people listening to this, I hope, have some notion of the importance of an email list, and they're trying to grow it.
Yeah.
They have some notion of LinkedIn. We've got other episodes where people talk a lot about LinkedIn. YouTube is sort of this new topic.
So we're only getting like 100 hours a month, which is decent, but we're no means millions of subscribers, but it's doing good for our business. And I think it was Dan Kennedy, or it might have been Frank Kern, that said, because we're all standing on the shoulders of giants, the best way to show somebody you can help them is by actually helping them. That's all I try and do in every YouTube video. That's what I do. And so I just talk about what I enjoy and what will help people. I don't try and do, and you've seen some of my YouTube videos, don't try and do marketing videos on there. I'm just actually there telling, you got these, sharing what I've been doing, what's been working with the underlying objective of helping people. And that's all I do. And I just think of the idea and I do the idea and ask if it will help them. Yeah.
So I like that philosophy, and I think it extends way beyond YouTube, right? Start solving people's problems. That's one of the things that I tell folks, like when you comes to a lead magnet, stop talking about how awesome you are and just start solving someone's problem. Now, and if you do that, it sounds like it doesn't matter if you have the fancy splashy background. It doesn't matter if you have the super fancy video, studio, audio editing, etc.
Yeah, I mean,
or am I wrong, or do we need that these days?
We haven't done any of that. I mean, I might do it in the future. My philosophy has always been done better than perfect, get moving and learn. And I've learned a lot from doing it, progressed to the book I described. We got to the 100 hours. Now I actually just this week want my designer to look at my thumbnails. Like I was like, we need to have a consistent thumbnail because they're a mess and probably we could do better. So only at the beginning of the year we started this, and it's now August. We're actually looking at the thumbnails. I think action is better than creating barriers. In this case, that's my personal opinion. Just go on the video, say what you're going to talk about it, and then tell people what you've talked about. And don't worry about any of the B-roll. B-roll is all the effects. And I personally, I don't get that. Like, people are there to learn something. They don't want to see you dancing around on stage and dancing to music. I mean, if it works for them, it works for them. I just want to get the stuff up there and then go from there. So we might add some of that in soon, I'll have to get some nice B-roll and do some speaky events.
There we go.
Now get going.
How does it matter how long these videos are? Are there certain times that seem to work better or worse?
Times I don't know. We just get it up when I finished. But I did have a call last week with a friend that I know from another program. She's got a huge channel giving relationship advice. So she said to me, get it up at exactly the same time as you send it to your email list. So YouTube believes that, you know, you're getting a lot of hits, which is fine. That makes sense. In terms of length, I found 7 to 10 minutes to be the sweet spot.
Okay. And I will tell you, because I listen to all your videos at double speed, like I do almost everything that isn't music or movie related, right? When it's someone talking, I want to listen to it at double speed because I love the video medium, except that I can't like go fast enough. So for a lot of people wondering about consuming video content, the double speed is just life-changing. So 7 to 10 minutes. So, and the way I try to think about this, and tell me if this works for you, is like, I like to think about, imagine you and I are just having a conversation where you ask for my help in some area that I'm an expert in, and I tell you a bunch of stuff, and then I put that on YouTube. And it just happens to be, now I have a conversation that anyone can access.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I think I think conversational energy works for some people. You've got to find the energy that works for you, because for a long time, maybe I didn't have a strong enough identity, and I worked with various coaches who would jump around in front of a whiteboard. It was super, nothing wrong with it. It worked for them, but when I did it, it didn't really work. When I just spoke to the camera conversationally, that worked for me. So I think it's really important. That's in itself one of the reasons to just get started, because you start doing enough, figuratively speaking, you'll find your voice. And I don't think I found my voice, but I'm certainly a lot more comfortable than I was when I started this journey. And conversational works for me, definitely.
And I think that's a great point. There are some people out there who do big in-person trainings, or they have video studios, and they're all set. So you don't need to listen to this low-level advice. You're already at the graduate level. But the people who are saying, gosh, I'm too nervous to get started, you can literally take your Zoom call and pull out a clip of video. In fact, Mark has a great video on his YouTube channel about how to generate content from your recordings of Zoom and use that to help populate your YouTube channel, right? You don't have to turn it into a big thing in your own head and not get started.
Exactly. I think, excuse the analogy, but a lot of it is just getting started. The equivalent of, you know, if you want to travel from where I'm in Lakeland to San Diego, a lot of people are waiting to see the California state line before they get started. It's never going to be, you're never going to see it unless you actually start. And I hope that doesn't come across the wrong way, because I've been through this journey. I've experienced this journey, lots of procrastination. And when we moved to the States, we had a new energy. We were like, let's do it. And I just started doing it, you know, and it's the best way. It really is.
And I think I know, as somebody who overthinks things all the time, something that's been very helpful for me is to think, am I worried because I'm not going to look good? I'm not going to look perfect. Or am I worried that I'm not helping people? And usually I'm more worried about my own ego than I am about helping people. And it's like, well, my mission is actually to help people. So why don't I not worry about, you know, that I need a haircut and whatever, and just go do the thing that's actually going to deliver value to the people I'm trying to help?
I had a great mentor that taught me something once. He said, people do everything in life to a certain degree because they expect something. So if you're going to sit down on a chair, you do it because you expect the chair to support your body weight. Otherwise, you wouldn't do it. So if you're not, especially in front of a group of people, and I couldn't get that image on my head, he's right. But so if you're not posting on YouTube or LinkedIn, you would do if you expected that people would watch it and grow, your business would grow and you would have great results, you do it, right? So you've got to ask, what is the expectation? And can you trick your mind into a new expectation? Because the brain doesn't know the difference between what's real and what's not. And you only have to look at social media for all the evidence you need on that these days, right? So you may as well trick your own brain. What's the point giving any energy at all to a negative outcome when it hasn't happened? So that's how I feel.
And I think you brought up something earlier that I wanted to come back to.
Yeah.
Because I think when a lot of people think, oh, YouTube stars, they think of these people who make, you know, $10 million a year and they have a zillion
popcorn
followers and popcorn in space kind of nonsense. Yeah. And you're doing all this with, you know, 100-ish hours of watching, much of it driven by your own email list.
I mean, 100 hours is great for me. I take 100 hours of content watching every month, considering I've just started. I mean, I think that's fantastic.
It is. And I think if you start today, you're not going to get 100 hours. But the point is, you don't have to get millions, right? It's a relatively small amount of time. And when you're providing value to your email list, right? And I'm on your email list and I watch your videos and I'm, you know, part of those 100 hours. it's like you're providing a force multiplier, because you can't have 100 hours of conversations with these people on top of everything else that you're doing.
Yeah, and let's put it in the context of LinkedIn. Like, let's say you're uploading the 2-minute videos that everyone seems to be doing these days. How many 2-minute videos would you need to do in order to get 100 hours of watch time out a typical following on LinkedIn? Do you know what I mean? With their view counts, it's a lot. It's a lot. You know, it really
Well, and the
is.
other thing that I think is interesting is when I'm on LinkedIn, I really don't like videos because they're too
Yeah,
slow, even at double speed, right? I don't want a 2-minute video or a 5-minute video or the 7-minute video,
yeah,
but by the way, go to minute 3 and
yeah.
you'll see a great exchange. Like, that's not what I'm on LinkedIn
Mm,
for. On YouTube, I'm there to watch video.
mm.
So I don't mind watching a 2-minute video or 20-minute video or an hour-long video if it provides enough value.
Yep. Yeah, it's true. I watch a lot of stuff on YouTube. There's some great stuff. I mean, you can watch lectures from Stanford University. I
Yeah,
mean,
it's amazing.
I'm only 41, but you couldn't get access to that stuff when I was, 20. It's crazy to think what's available on there. But production is important as well as consumption.
Right. Now, of course, the videos that you and I are making that are helpful to a small sliver of people, the lectures from Stanford University, maybe
Yep.
get a few more hits, and then popcorn in space is all anyone
Yeah,
really
yeah,
wants to talk
yeah.
about. But that's just humanity, right? We're amusing
Yeah,
ourselves
yeah.
to
Like,
death.
what will Coca-Cola melt? Let's test what Coca-Cola
Right.
melts. Yeah, you know what I mean.
So
Yeah,
one more thing I want to make sure that we
yeah.
get to is, you can create this video, you can put it online, you can embed it in various places, etc. What about the call to action? What do you ask people to do? Do you ask? One thing that irritates me is everyone's like, click the bell to subscribe, ding, at the
I
start.
mean,
15 seconds wasted every video, and I guess it must work. But like, what about at the end? Do you ask them to subscribe to your newsletter, to go to your site? Do you ask them to do anything?
I don't do anything because I like one of the main linchpins of our strategy is live webinars, and I hired some great people who had great live webinars. And one of them, I was like, "How do I do the pitch? How do I do the pitch?" It's really important. He goes, "Mark, it's a 60-minute webinar, right?" And I go, "Yeah." He said, "Well, do you know how long your pitch is?" And I said, "Well, it's the last 5 minutes." He goes, "No, it's the 60 minutes. All the work you do before that's the pitch. You're just asking people to bring attention to what they've already seen. So I do a call to action sometimes, but most of the time I just put it up there. And I like to believe that the people that watch my channel are intelligent enough to make decisions in their own best interest. And I believe that carries through for business. So if they like it, they'll subscribe. Like, maybe we'll add a little bell or something, but so far I haven't even bothered to do that. And we're growing steadily with subscribers. We're growing steadily with the comments, which you might have seen on our channel. It's just moving in the right direction. And I don't. I mean, maybe it is best practice, but at the time it was getting in the way of getting up there.
Right. Now, what about getting people from YouTube to your website, to your email list, etc.?
Don't know. That's the bit I don't know what happens because.
Oh.
Because we've just been putting go here, go here, go here, but I've got no way to attribute. I'm actually going to put a special link for the YouTube channels so I can attribute it, but I just know my email list is growing more than it used to. So it's very difficult to see. We had like a VP of Salesforce join, follow the YouTube channel, another person, and then you check them out on LinkedIn, you're like, I'm not even connected to these people. So I know that it's working, but I just don't have the hard data to prove it yet. But it'll come. It'll come. Again, we just started doing it, and I figure these stuff out as you go. What's the other scenario? Get everything in place, get all the tracking links, get all the thumbnails, get all the B-roll, get all the special graphics, get everything set up and go and do it. No, I just started doing it. So we'll get there,
Got it. Well, you and I should have a separate offline conversation about
Yep.
attribution, because I've got some interesting capabilities there. But
Yep.
Where can people find you if they want to learn more?
B2bgrowthteam.com will be up by the time this is live. We just rebranded. Or Mark Firth online, or Mark Firth in YouTube should bring me up these days, because there's another famous industrialist from the UK who apparently did some great artwork and built a few factories. But I seem to be above him these days on YouTube.
That is funny. So we want to make sure we are talking to Mark Firth, the digital marketer, not Mark Firth, the industrialist.
The 18th century industrialist, or 19th century. I always get it wrong.
And I'm just going to do a quick check on YouTube. and you are the first thing that comes up on YouTube.
That's a good start, isn't it?
Yeah, you're all over the YouTube results.
It's actually started appearing in my search results. I mean, there's just so many hidden benefits to being on YouTube. Because Google, obviously,
there is another Mark Firth who does have some interesting videos about travel.
Oh, wow.
But you rank above him, so no worries there. And of course, we'll have all those links in the show notes as well as the link to the book. Mark, thanks for coming on and talking about YouTube, and thanks for giving me a little kick in the pants. I keep meaning to do a little bit more with video and letting people know that this doesn't have to be some grand television or movie studio type endeavor. It is something you can do with your webcam and get started and start seeing results and start helping people.
Yeah, this is how I do it. Like literally how you're seeing now.
It's true. If you haven't seen Mark's channel, it's absolutely true. I recognize the background. I recognize the office he's in.
Yeah.
Mark, thanks so much. Cheers.
Thank you. Thank you. Cheers.
Thanks for listening. Drop an iTunes review or a review wherever you listen to this podcast. If you've got a friend who would benefit from this episode, let them know about it. If you've got a friend who wouldn't benefit from this episode, but you just haven't talked to for a while, now's a great time to give them a call. Thanks for listening. Until next time.